Well, thank you for tuning in. This is Matt Santos of the Mile High Show. You're listening to episode 156. It was an impromptu session after having to reschedule my earlier planned interview because of our anti-sponsor today. We talked about it a little bit in the episode, but didn't get into it too much. My anti-sponsor today is York Dodge out of Prescott, Arizona, who was going to do some work on my truck that was going to take 3 hours, and 8 hours later, I drove out of their parking lot. Not because they ran into problems, but because after an hour and a half, when they were done with their work, nobody called me, and then they didn't have any information when I called them or when I stopped in. And it turns out they were done in an hour and a half, but it took them 8 hours to let me drive out of their lot. So I had to reschedule my entire day. Not real happy with the good folks at York Dodge. Now, got some great people working there, but evidently I fell through the cracks yesterday. So the unofficial and anti-sponsor of today's episode is York Dodge for making me waste an entire day. But it worked out all right, because what happened was later on in the day, when I didn't have anything scheduled, I bumped into Garrick Rawlings, a local musician, local in Prescott by way of L.A., through Michigan and all parts through the Midwest where he grew up. We talk about his upcoming release. We talk about shows he's seen. We swap some stories and have a few laughs. We recorded over at the Raven Café in Prescott. So check out Garrick at GarrickRawlings.com. Check out the Raven Café at RavenCafe.com. A great spot for food, beverage, and live music. So enjoy 156 with Garrick Rawlings. And while we were recording, in the background, you'll hear a lot of music. Drew Hall, Anton Teschner, Gigi Ganaway, and Milan Hawk were playing at the Raven. They will be joining me on the show shortly because they've got some big stuff coming up. So follow all those guys on Facebook. Check out Garrick at GarrickRawlings.com. And, of course, our sponsor today, the official one, is Big Daddy's Barbecue, BDEBBQ.com in Chino Valley, the best place you can stuff your face. So enjoy 156 with Garrick Rawlings.
Lost in time, lost in time.
Now, what distracted me there is I was texting with my buddy and former guest of the show, Mr. Matt Hinshaw, who I got trapped at his house today. That's a whole other long story. We'll get into. The show is brought to you today by Amazon. Go to the Amazon link at milehighshow.com and do all your online shopping. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but what it does is it gives us a little kickback every month. Now, having said that, we'll get to our anti-sponsor in a few minutes. The reason I was trapped at Matt Hinshaw's house today. But I get to his house. Oh, and the guest today, Garrick Rawlings. How are you?
Great, Matt.
Musician
Thanks for having me, man. It's just like we planned it. It's been weeks in the making.
Man about town, who I met in an alley in Chino Valley tonight. I said, hey, you want to go record? So I got stuck at Hinshaw's today. And I get there as he's just getting up because it's, before noon. And I get there at about 8:45 this morning, and he's getting ready for work, and all I want to do is crash on his couch and watch a little TV. Well,
Diamond Valley.
The guy gets he's got one TV in his living room, DVD player hooked up to it, Xbox, PlayStation, a Pong machine. I don't know what else he's got. He's got nine
Pong?
He's got like 9 things hooked up to his TV, including an antenna, some kind of analog DVR thing. I don't know what he's got going, but he's got like 9 remotes.
It's probably why I don't get any reception at my house.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I can't. If they say talking on a cell phone causes like health problems and brain waves and brain cancer and stuff, I think I caught leukemia today from sitting next to his bank of remote controls. And get this, he goes, this one does the switcher to go back and forth between the different units, the game, the PlayStation, the Xbox, the DVR. This one makes this for volume. This one's to turn the TV on and off. This one's to change channels. And then he hands me one, no lie. This one doesn't work, but here. Like, what?
I got one of those between my cassette deck and my turntable.
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, just in remotes and cords to hook all these things up and batteries to run those remotes, if Matt Hinshaw, one of my best friends, who was on one of the very first shows of these, probably the most recurring guest on this podcast, if he would just buy his batteries by using that Amazon link, I think I could retire. Guys, never use the Amazon link, and the guy, he gets packages. Every time I go to his house, he's got a new package that just got delivered from Amazon, and he won't use the link. I don't understand.
Come on, Matt. Well, now I know why Matt Hinshaw glows at night when I see him at night.
Yeah, if he might show up here. If he does, and here, I'm very unorganized today. Here is the Raven.
We've been planning this for a long time. It's about 15 minutes ago in Chino
Valley.
Here
is the Raven, and we are sitting in the back by the best seats in the house, right next to the bathrooms. We get to see everybody coming and going. Out front, playing Anton Teschner, Drew Hall, Milan Hawk, and Gigi Ganaway, right?
Yeah, great band, man. Full house here tonight, too. Good to see you here in Prescott.
Which is another reason why we're back here. One, we don't want to disturb the show going on there.
They wouldn't have us in front.
They're in
anyway.
A little break. I've done that before. But it's just so packed. No elbow room, nothing. It's a great spot. The Raven, I love live music here. And, of course, they under a new banner, they were the Drew and Anton acoustic duo. They were Drew Hall and Anton Teschner something. Now they are the Teschner and... What are they calling themselves tonight?
Gosh, I don't know.
Teschner and Hall Group, I think is what it is. Follow them on Facebook.
I thought they were the new Ambrosia. I don't know.
Follow them on Facebook. Just go on there. Anton Teschner, just like it sounds. I don't know how to spell it. I'm not going to even try. And Drew Hall, I know how to spell that. They have both been on the show a bunch of times. But follow their groupings because they play under different groups, solo, as a duet, as a small combo like they got going tonight. And they play all over town and all throughout the Verde Valley and down into Phoenix. But great to see live. And they're on Facebook. And I heard something disturbing
Wait a minute, there's
today.
a Facebook?
I heard something... I heard MySpace. I did activate. No joke.
I was so happy that I got my MySpace going.
No joke.
You know?
I relogged into my MySpace a couple weeks ago. I was waiting for something to upload, and I just Googled it, and I had the same recovery email. So I actually went in and updated my MySpace profile.
Nice. I was so proud when I finally got my MySpace going.
I couldn't get through it through my Cable One high-speed modem. I had to actually go to the garage and dial up. Get a rotary phone to get into my MySpace. But I heard something disturbing this afternoon. I heard that Garrick is now on Facebook.
I got on the Facebook.
Welcome to the 20th century.
After almost a decade. About 2009, I got on for a minute when my MySpace was still going strong.
So what's your, where do people find you?
It's Garrick Rawlings. That's it.
That's it?
Or whatever else comes after it.
So
but it's just my. I don't. There's not too many Garrick Rawlings, and same thing. Garrick, GarrickRawlings.
Launched a new website too, right?
Yeah, I got a website going now too.
What is it?
GarrickRawlings.com.
Cool.
I'm catching up with the 21st century, man.
No, 20th century, just in time for the 21st.
Right, man.
You're only a century behind.
And before I forget, I love the sound guy here, Jake, at the Raven as well. He also does sound over at the Point. I've done a lot of gigs with him. He always does a good... Makes a big difference when you got a guy that knows what he's doing with the sound.
Here comes the man of the hour. What's going on, man? How are
Anton.
you? Anton. We don't want to stop me.
They're on the break. They're on the break. Go. The band's got to go.
I feel like I'm backstage at a big nightclub.
Yeah, for your listeners, Matt, we're by the ramp for those that aren't familiar with the Raven or are trying to put ourselves, there's two nice lounge chairs by the ramp at the end of the ramp by the bathroom, and Matt's looking into the crowd. He can see who's coming, and I can only see who's going.
No, you can see who just went.
Yeah, exactly. There.
So now
we got a great spot here.
You sat down with Les Lyman and myself several months ago.
It was about a year ago, I think.
Wow.
Maybe not quite a year. But,
could have been, yeah. We were over at Gabby's.
Exactly.
Gabby's Grill in Prescott Valley.
Les introduced me to you, and we had a great time.
As it happens, that's where we met up today.
Correct.
At Big Daddy E's Barbecue in Chino Valley. Les was playing out there on the patio, and you were out there hanging out.
Yeah, I had a
listening.
nice pulled pork and some mac and cheese.
Yeah. He does a good spread out there. Well, what have you been doing in the last year? You were talking about maybe going in studio last time we talked.
Yeah, I had a big year, man. Last time we did this, I was nearly done with a year-long project of demoing up all the songs I'd been ignoring recording for many years. And earlier this year, late spring, early summer, I was out in L.A. and we did the backing tracks for what's the album I've been working on for 12 years. With the great Rick Shea. He's producing me and playing on it. I met him when he was in Dave Alvin's band. Yeah. Dave Alvin and the Guilty Men. Dave was in the Blasters in the 80s. That if it wasn't for the Stray Cats, the Blasters would have been the big roots band of the 80s.
I saw the Blasters at I want to say the Greek at Berkeley way back when. And maybe the Stone on Broadway in San Francisco. I've seen them twice, and I want to say it was those two spots. I'm not sure.
I saw them back in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where I grew up in Sturgis, Michigan, and at Wing Stadium they were opening up for Eric Clapton.
Oh wow!
On his Money and Cigarettes tour. I didn't know I wasn't wasn't hip to the Blasters. They weren't big in the Midwest at that time. And they were a great set of rock and roll. But as you are at that age, I was ready to see Clapton.
Yeah,
but Clapton was still not quite over the things, his demons at the time. And his guitar player in the band was Albert Lee, who I wasn't hip to at that time. And Albert Lee is one of the greatest guitar players of all. He came up in Emmylou Harris's Hot Band, and he's one of the greatest chicken-picking guitar players of any kind of guitar player you'll ever find. Anyhow, Clapton had this big band, and Clapton just played cowboy chords the whole night, and Albert Lee took all the leads, which is dumb.
Why you go see Clapton?
Right, as a dumb teenager, I was like, "What the hell is going?" Even Layla, Albert Lee's take. There were wonderful leads, but I'm like, "What's wrong with Clapton?" Well, you can read anything about that and know why that is. And years later, I got to open a show for Dave Alvin in San Diego at the Acoustic Music concert series, and we got to talk, and I got to know him through Rick, who I'm working with now. And he goes, I remember that show. And John Baz, the drummer in the Blasters, he goes, I think it was, I may have this wrong, but I think it was in Detroit before the show in Kalamazoo, somewhere in there. He goes, the drummer in Clapton's band, who I don't remember who it was in that touring band, he goes, he was so wasted that Baz played drums for
you
Clapton.
Sound like the best of, actually,
Yeah, so it's great how these stories come out years later. But back to my story, Rick. For years, I got to open shows for him out of the Cinema Bar and other places in L.A. Rick's a great session guy. He's been on. He's on an REM album. He used to tour with Atlanta Miles, et cetera, et cetera. The great rockabilly queen Wanda Jackson.
Yeah.
That played with Elvis back there, shared the bills with Elvis back in the day. Jack White of the White Stripes produced an album for her a handful of years ago now.
He is one, Jack White, it seems, and just because I'm not a music guy. I enjoy talking to musicians like yourself, like Les, Drew Hall, and I have an appreciation for it, but I don't know music history. I can't play a tune. I can't carry a note by singing, but I have an appreciation for the guys and gals that do. Having said that, I love listening to interviews about musicians and hearing the history and the influences. Mark Maron on his WTF has had Jack White. He's had Dave on, I believe.
Yes, he has. It was a good interview.
It was
Dave.
a good interview.
Yeah.
But he's a real audiophile. Maron is. Jimmy Pardo also is.
With those $1 million Macintosh amps and all that stuff.
Tube amps and browsing through those small record stores that are still out, in Hipsterville. And I hear about the influences in the revival of vinyl that's been going on the last decade or so.
Yeah.
And Jack White, from what it sounds like, can be credited with a lot of that revival, and his record company is actually does a lot of specialty presses and things like that of really hard to find vinyls that people pay top dollar for. So am I wrong in saying that Jack White's kind of a driving force in that?
No, I think you're right on. Another Michigan guy. I think he's based out of Nashville now. Is it one man record or I can't think of
I don't know.
Yeah, he's all into he's the real deal.
Yeah.
He's a guy I want to, once I get this record out, I'm gonna he's one of the guys I want to hear it.
So talk about the experience recording. I mean, you refresh my mind, my cloudy, addled mind.
You don't remember every detail of our conversation from last December or whenever it was?
I vaguely remember being held hostage at Matt's couch this morning, which I'll still get to because, we do have an anti-sponsor.
Okay.
York Dodge in Prescott.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later.
All right.
But that's why I was held captive on Matt's couch. But when we talked, you had you just wrapped up the studio session?
No, I was almost wrapping up my demos of I had about poor Rick. I laid about 30 songs on him, which is
all
ridiculous for a 10 song album. He's
Yeah.
like, what? It's not because I'm prolific. It's because it's just been so long to
No, that's
to
like
get
a photographer,
get
man.
my
We
stuff
shoot
together.
100 to get 2.
Exactly. And back when I still lived there, he wanted to work with me, and life happens, yada yada.
Yeah.
That's how I found my way to Prescott, Arizona, after 20 years in L.A. And finally, I did just a publishing demo. I had songs I hadn't even recorded yet, and as an artist, you're like, my God, if I at least want them to be heard for whatever reason. And I did a publishing demo is when you're just going and lay the songs down. You're not trying to make them sound good, just so for copyright and all that. And I did that with Brent Reason, a great sound engineer here locally, and I sent them out to Rick just to see what he thought. And he goes, God, like I've been telling you, why don't you make a record with me? And anyway, I wanted to do it my way with my songs, so I could. I don't know how to write charts or write music, so I wanted to make all my songs to a beat, so a drummer could figure it out and all that. Finally, we got it together, and over the phone and email and all that, we chose which songs we were going to work on. And this spring, early summer, we went to Sean Norse's studio in Highland Park, L.A., which is right between downtown L.A. and Pasadena. Now, Sean Norse is a spectacular drummer. He's the drummer. He was a drummer of IC Hawks in L.A. That's ICSEE, Hawks in L.A. The epitome of a modern Americana band. To me, they had a handful album. I don't think he's full-time with the band now, but he's... Like when I got there, he just flew back from Egypt because he was hired to play in some rockabilly band on a cruise for big money. He's one of those in-demand guys and a magnificent engineer. And the great Dave Hall on bass, which is in Rick Shea's band, The Losing End. And man, Rick put the charts together, and we went in there. I put me in an isolation booth, and we recorded the tracks live as a band. Most everyone we got in 2 or 3 takes tops. Nice. And then I came back out here to Prescott in my home studio just to lay down, to do my guitar parts better that I didn't get right in the studio, and add a little things that I could do myself. And then my studio went down, yada yada. I got way behind schedules, as all these things do.
Things happen,
and then I sent them out to him. Then he's okay, good. And then Rick, he's also his own artist, and he's got his 10th album just came out, which is wonderful. Look it up, rickshea.com. And he's got a few videos out. He's in the top 10 of an Americana chart right now. I can't remember it. And it came out. He was top 10 Americana artist in L.A. in the L.A. Weekly out there. And so he's getting a lot of juice out of that. So that's the good news. But the bad news is he's my producer, and he's got all that good juice. And immediately he got a gig, a little tour in the East Coast in New England.
So the top guy in L.A. didn't have time to put your stuff together?
Yeah, I don't know why he's worried about his own career instead of mine. But then he just got
one of the real drawbacks of working with great people.
Right.
Is you got to strike lightning.
Yeah. that's the other flaw, hiring a producer who's also an artist. But anyway, I hope some of that rubs off on me, and I hope we can go out and tour together. And
see, the flip side is you can get the guys that are always available, but just like in the photo biz that I've been associated with for a lot of years, the guys that are always sitting around looking for gigs, there's probably a reason they're not being hired.
Exactly. Or they're so much, or they're the Mutt Langs or whatever who make millions of dollars, and that's all they do.
Usually, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
There's a reason you can't work.
but Rick's the finest kind, man. He's taught me a lot, and it's just. And actually, like I said, I did so many demos. I have enough to do 2 or 3 albums.
Is that in the works?
And I hope once this comes out, I'd like to get on that, because when you get a group of guys that actually. Yeah. The guys got my songs, and
so who else was with you? Who else are people going to hear on this? When it finally comes out.
Well, it's Rick Shea, Sean Norris, and Dave Hall, and me, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple fare. We're going to have a couple of singers on it, and there's a song of mine there's a demo of it on my website with a cello on it, and a couple other instruments perhaps, but. We're in the sweetening phase now. We just need time. So hopefully by the end of the year, beginning of the year, that'll be done.
Now, locally here, a lot of the folks we talk to, the musicians and that, of course, have played with you. They've worked with you. They've sat in on your shows.
Sure.
But for those, we're getting a nice wide audience, specifically down in the Valley as well as on the East Coast. Let's drop this in podcastradionetwork.net. We are rebroadcast every Sunday out of Brooklyn, New York at 5 p.m. Arizona time, 8 p.m. New York time. That might have changed last week when the clocks changed. Anyway, it's 5 p.m. Arizona time.
Yeah, Brooklyn's the new Manhattan now, isn't it?
What's that?
Brooklyn's the new Manhattan now, isn't it?
I don't know. It's
the Lower East Side anymore.
John Sweeney puts me up, and we get another 10,000 downloads a week.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's the podcastradionetwork.net. They're also on TuneIn Radio, as we are. I've been trying to keep it to an hour. Before, we used to just let it roll. He's changed his format a little bit, and his shows need to be locked in at an hour. So sometimes
that's what happens when you go big time,
Matt. No, sometimes what I'll do is we'll just go, and if I need to then do a Podcast Radio Network special cut, you get the full show at milehighshow.com. You get the hour show there. But we've been keeping it right about an hour. So that's worked out real good. But a shout out to John and the good folks at podcastradionetwork.net, because they've boosted our visibility. And I've been getting good feedback from people on the East Coast who are looking, hey, how do we get so-and-so's CD? How do we listen to this guy? Is that comic you talk to coming to the East Coast anytime soon? So if you can.
What are you, a comedian?
No, but I sit and talk with a lot of them. I love talking with these comics.
I've got one of your comedy CDs. Don't lie to me.
We'll get to that, because I spent last week with the All Things Comedy Network folks, allthingscomedy.com. Bill Burr, Al Madrigal, Ari Shafir, all those guys. That's who we were hanging out with, Graham Elwood. I was hanging out with those guys last week. And if you can hear, my voice is just coming back. I piggybacked the All Things Comedy Festival shows at night with photo jobs in the morning. I was shooting a bunch of preschools. So I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go shoot snotty-nosed preschools, wrapping those up, going to the comedy festival, wrapping up the comedy festival
with a bunch of snotty-nosed comedians.
1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., then getting up at 6 again. By the third day, I completely lost my voice. So it's
I
just
totally
coming
get it,
back.
man. I get it.
Anyway, but what I'm getting at is our audience, the Mile High Show's audience, is expanding pretty rapidly out of the Prescott area, which is great. So if you can, for the folks that aren't too familiar with you and your music, give a little idea of what they'll be able to expect when they go to your website, GarrickRawlings.com, look at your YouTube clips, look at your appearances here. The floor show started.
Yeah, we're just
almost
dancing down the ramp to the bathroom.
But there's a lot of content out there, and I'll link that. But give a little synopsis. What will people expect of your music? What kind of musical style?
Americana is the best way to describe it, and a lot of people kind of resent that, because to me, it's just rock, folk, country, and blues that we grew up with.
What are your influences?
I grew up a hard rock electric guitar player, a typical typical Midwestern kind of guy. You know, Joe Perry, 70s Joe Perry and Jimmy Page and all that. And as we talked about this in the last one, but I love Neil Young and Johnny Cash and the old Outlaw Cowboys. Your Willie Nelsons and Waylon Jennings and Christopherson. And then what really got me going on this. When I stopped being just a lead guitar player and started doing my own stuff as a solo guy, it was I already mentioned Dave Alvin, but I got to know Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and I road managed him and went out on the road with him.
Some great stories about Ramblin' Jack in our last podcast. So go back, milehighshow.com, listen to the last one.
It's still on, and there's a link on my website too on the news page to that. And it was Tom Russell, Chris Smither, and then there's Townes Van Zandt, and there's John Prine. And just the songwriters, man, there's just a lot of magic there, and they're my heroes. And I'm just trying to Leonard Cohen, for crying out loud. Tom Petty. How sad is we could do a whole podcast on Tom Petty.
Got to see him many times.
Me too, man. He's the one guy. Just
cuts through everything.
Exactly.
Everybody loved Petty.
Exactly. He was. I've got to meet a lot of guys, and as I said, I worked in the film business in L.A. and played music out there, so I had the good privilege of meeting a lot of folks that I wouldn't have if I stayed in Sturgis, Michigan, but or Prescott for that matter. But Tom was always one of those guys. I just felt like eventually I'd get to meet that guy and talk, because he's just one of the coolest. And Dylan had a great quote upon Tom's death. How he it was a short line, but he said that Tom, I may get the quote wrong, but he said he always had the light, or the light always, he had the light. And that's so true, because I've seen who knows how many concerts, but every time I saw Tom, there wasn't, I don't think the guy ever had a bad show. Even probably at his worst, the light still shone, because he played for all the right reasons. He was
that summarizes it perfectly.
He was the one guy, Matt, that never let us down. He finally, his third album, Damn the Torpedoes, he made it big finally. And of course, he went through nightmares on the business side, as we all. It's all on the internet.
And the personnel side. I mean, there was some demons in that band over the years, and some bad things were happening.
But his very next album, Hard Promises, after Damn the Torpedoes, MCA, his record label, said, "Well, now I think it was $8.98 was the list price of vinyl albums at the time," and they said, "Well, I may have it wrong, but it's something like this." Yeah, exactly. But now with Tom, because he'll be a big seller, we're making it $9.98. And Tom said, "Not on my album. We're not doing that." And he actually withheld his masters from his own record company, held his own masters hostage, and he said, "Okay, you can have it." And they reshot his cover photos, so he's standing in front of a record bin with this album that says $8.98. So if it went through a legal thing, they'd have to be selling his album for $1 more than the pick. I mean, that's how he thought, and he won. And then when the Eagles came out and started charging $200 or $300 just to see them freaking play, when they figured out all their fans were rich yuppies, Tom said, we're not having any. I'm making up the numbers, but we're not having any, no more than $65 or whatever it was. Because he was like, I'm already making a couple of million on this. I don't need 3 or 4. I'm making all this up, but I don't need another couple $100 million when I'm already kind of made it and I'm doing good. I'd rather have my fans there than that, $500 golden circle of the Jagoffs showing off in front who aren't the real fans.
Yeah, there's no fans that can see it. It's like Super Bowl.
Yeah,
how many football fans go to the Super Bowl?
Exactly.
None. They're all at home watching on TV because you can't afford the grand ticket price.
And I just hold that guy in such high regard. And I have all of his records and all his B-sides and stuff that came out on his... I had all the 45s that had these obscure B-sides. They came out on his box set later, but I was the cool Tom Petty kid with the B-sides on my cassettes that nobody had ever heard before. Songs like Trailer and Casadega, et cetera, et cetera.
You know what's cool about... obviously it's sad that he's no longer with us just a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago. But in the last couple of years, there was a really good documentary done on Tom Petty. It was on Netflix. It's probably still there.
Yeah, I think it was Scorsese that did it, didn't he?
Was it?
I think so.
It was dynamite,
Yeah,
and it was real personal, real intimate.
Yeah.
And it went through everything from, his struggling days as a kid up through, the height of FM and Damn the Torpedoes and all that, up through the Traveling Wilburys and up to him losing his stuff in his fire.
Yeah.
It was a real intimate look. It was a real behind the scenes. And unfortunately, a lot of times those are done posthumously after somebody's gone.
Right.
What a score for fans like us.
Yeah.
To be able to see that created in not just flashbacks and clips and interviews.
Exactly. He was
they
part of it,
followed him around because he was still around when they did it. What a gem that is! I'm glad. I'm going to have to rewatch that now. And I watched it a year or so ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm with this music. I haven't even got through it because I'm going through his albums chronologically, and now that he's, it's just a strange. Now that he's gone, you kind of look at it a different way because, that's all there is. Because there was, you're always looking forward to the new next Tom Petty album. And I'm just going through, and it's like, of course, I don't love every single song, but it's like, even the least favorite stuff of his is better than almost any. But the guy just, everything he did was quality. And he's one of the few guys that just didn't really do anything wrong artistically, man. Yeah. Live, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I'm a Neil Young freak, but this guy's coming out with an album every other day now. And it's interesting to listen to, but I haven't heard a good song in a long time.
Young came out with something, I want to say maybe a year and a half or so ago. It was like this big box set thing.
What was it, Archives?
No. It was, I want to say he did it with Jack White. I might be wrong. But they recorded the whole thing in one of those old 1940s, 1950s booths.
Yeah, it was just a single album. It's it's recorded into a needle right into acetate or wax or something. So with all the cracks in it, direct. It was before there was tape.
Did you listen to it?
I didn't get that album, but I heard several cuts.
I heard some cuts. I think on Marin on WTF.
Yeah, he even he covered a Bruce Springsteen song and a few other things. Yeah,
it's an interesting concept.
Yeah,
but it's kind of crappy.
Right.
I was trying to say it nicely, but it was kind of crappy.
Well, that was what it was of it. What that was.
Yeah.
Wasn't first. It was he did it spontaneously because Jack was like, "Hey, look at this," and he went in and did 10 songs.
It was the musical equivalent of tintype photos kind of thing.
Same, yeah, exactly.
Or my kids' drawings on my refrigerator.
Yeah, you'd get a wax acetate because instead of a magnetic tape, it's a needle actually cutting grooves into something.
Process, but when I want Neil Young, I want Harvest. I want.
Right. Yeah, he just came out. He keeps coming out with them, man. God bless him, man.
Great artist. Now, okay, we're talking about great artists. Let's whip it back around to Garrick. What now with Shay, occupied doing his thing. Got any kind of hopeful time frame for us to be able to get your new release?
I'm hoping by the end of the year, beginning of the next. Okay. We're real close. It's just a matter of
how are you putting it out? Digital download only, CDs?
Man,
are you going to do a vinyl?
I don't have any. I'm doing a regular CD for sure, and I'm so far behind my own fault that just getting on Facebook and all that. But first thing I'll get it on MySpace, get it on 8-track and cassette. No, a CD for sure. Just because.
So you're coming out on 8-track.
Where it can stop right in the middle of the song to come. That way, and I'm learning about all the digital stuff, Spotify and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I'll figure that out as I go. I'm kind of in that. I'm in perpetual wait and see right now. I'm dying to get out and sell this and promote it, but I don't have anything
title
yet.
For it yet.
I'm probably just going to self-title it. There wasn't a song that popped out that was like a good title. So once I see the artwork and it's here, I'll
gotcha.
It's once I hear the finished product, I'll finish the artwork and either go self-title or the album or come up with a name for it. So I'm just really excited, chomping at the bit, waiting for it to go.
You got plans to take the album out on the road?
Absolutely. That's what I want to be big in Europe, Japan.
Big in Japan,
Brooklyn.
Tom Waits.
I'm going to do wherever I can, wherever it takes me,
you want to do
Matt.
some traveling? See what you can get?
Absolutely.
Nice.
That's the first thing I want to do is get it on Roots Rock Radio, like Undercurrents.
Yeah.
Right here in Prescott, 90.1 in town and 89.5, I think, down in the valley.
Yeah.
PV rather, and it's on the Native American Network. People that love the roots music,
part of the KJZZ
there you
NPR
go.
family.
Yeah, you're right. It's all over the place. So it's just at a grassroots level, not the Taylor Swift level and all that.
And you know what though? That's kind of years ago, and you know this. You've been doing the business for for a long time. You've been on different levels of it. You used to, as a musician, you had to get the radio airplay. Then you had to get management to back you. You had to get a record label to look at you. You had to do this. You had to do that. Now, you can self-publish.
Yep.
You can self-print. You can run your own YouTube channel, your downloads from your website. And you've cut out several layers of that management to where the artist, you, the musician, are directly handing your product, your artwork to your fan base.
Correct.
And you don't have to go through all those steps. The days of needing to get on FM and getting in the rotation are long gone when you've got, Sirius Radio or, Sirius, whatever you call it, the digital bands, hundreds of channels available at the touch of a button in anybody's dashboard. Podcasts like this one where you can get out and talk about your product. You don't need that structure anymore.
Correct.
And so, who knows? You get this out there,
and you don't have to sign your publishing over to do it. But that's the lovely part about it. But the bad part is
you're also
that everybody else can do it. So there's so much crap out there. But that's exactly where my career, whatever it is, went off the rails. When I first got in with these guys, with Rick and Dave Alvin, and was sharing shows with them around L.A., a really good Mike Stinson's another one that came from that. He's out in Houston now. But we had a great little scene going there in L.A., and there was this label, High Tone Records, that Dave Alvin was. Robert Craig came up on High Tone Records, and a lot of great artists on that. Ramblin' Jack was on it. Tom Russell was on that. Chris Smither was on that.
Robert Craig was out of Berkeley, wasn't he? I think.
I don't know where he came
I remember
from.
seeing him at Blake's on Shattuck back in the early 80s.
Yeah, but Bruce,
81, 82.
But Bruce Bromberg, and I can't remember his partner, were the owners of High Tone out of Oakland. And I had a couple of talks with them. I had a couple of talks with Trace Precadores that Rick was on. And Rick's latest album then, 10 years ago, he got national distribution at Tower Records. So we're all on this upswing. And then within a year, every record company that we knew went out of business.
Yeah.
Tower Records went bankrupt.
Have you seen that
it just kind of
documentary
fell
on
off.
Tower?
I have not.
Oh,
I'd like
it's great.
to. Is it? I didn't know it
Netflix
existed.
Or Hulu's.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't realize they were based out of Sacramento. That was their home base. But it's all about the decline of the record industry.
Oh, it
You
happens
love it.
so fast, man.
I don't remember what the name of it is because I didn't.
I'll look
do
it
any
up. Yeah,
homework.
man.
But it's a documentary on Tower Records.
Yeah.
And I grew up 90 miles out of Sacramento.
Okay.
Right outside of Oakland. So it was kind of neat seeing that, and I remember seeing that monster store. I believe it was on Market in San Francisco, and then going to L.A. and seeing that massive store.
Oh, it was iconic there on Sunset.
Yeah.
Slash used to work there.
Yeah.
Candace McNulty walking by, one of our luminary
But
artists
check
right
out-
here in town.
check
who
out if
sings. You can hear Candace on my on a couple of my demos on the music page of my website. There's a couple of
GarrickRawlings.com.
home demos that we recut for the album. Candace helped me out.
I
Great
mentioned-
singer.
I mentioned a few minutes ago, Big in Japan, Tom Waits. I'm a big Tom Waits fan.
Oh, yeah.
And she did a version at Don Cheek's open mic, the Thursday nights in the Birdcage.
Yeah.
Of Hold On. Is that from Mule Variations, I think? But she
know.
did Tom Waits, Hold On, and blew me away.
Yeah,
Incredible.
she's a great singer, man.
Incredible.
We're
Anyway,
going to try to get her on the record.
You You got to check out that Tower documentary.
I will, man.
Because they talk about just the debauchery going on when the record reps would come in and all this stuff. They'd lock the doors and it would turn into a nightclub in the background.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like a lot of fun.
These kids today don't know how fun rock and roll was, man. I tell you what, I just went back home, Michigan, Indiana, Chicago, where I grew up, and I was looking up. There's a great old club in Kalamazoo called the Club Soda, right downtown, and I hadn't been there in so long. I just looked it up to see if it was still there, and of course it closed years ago. But some dude in Michigan went to the trouble of all the venue, like Cobo Hall in Detroit and the Grandy Ballroom where the MC5 used to play, and Joe Louis Reed, it's not
iconic Michigan guys.
It's not 100% accurate, and you could do this with any city in the country.
Yeah.
Going back to the late 60s, listing the acts that came through there.
Yeah.
And I mean, from like late 60s to the mid-late 80s, there was 4 or 5 concerts a week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Foghat sold out Cobo Hall 3 times a year. You know what I'm saying? From that end to Blue Oyster Cult, these huge shows, Nugent, The Who, everybody. And I'm like, and that's what, and you're like, now there's 2 or 3 bands that can tour, and
they go to the Celebrity, or they come to the Oracle, or whatever.
Or they're playing casinos.
Whatever the arena is, yeah.
But back then, we were so lucky of that last era where, how did that happen? And you're like, well, we didn't have anything else to spend our money on.
I asked you before, how old are you?
I've just turned 52 last month.
52. I'm 51. Yeah. So, right
you
that
youngster.
Same thing, I was in the,
You youngster.
I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I remember of course, the Coliseum, the Cow Palace in San Francisco. That's where Elvis played.
Same thing.
That's where the Stones played. But there were the mid-range clubs where you were right there. The Circle Star in San Carlos. I saw War and George Clinton. George Clinton opened for War.
Funkadelic.
With their Galaxy tour back in 75, 76. That was the first concert I ever went to.
Nice.
But in Palo Alto, you had the Stone in Palo Alto. It was the Keystone family. The Stone in Palo Alto, the Keystone Berkeley, and the Stone on Broadway. I saw the Chili Peppers in 83.
They were just
at the
babies
Keystone
then.
Palo Alto. And then we were backstage with them, hanging out. And they go, hey, we're playing the Stone on Broadway. Why don't you come up tomorrow night? So we went up there, and I was 16, 17 years old, just hanging out with the Chili Peppers.
I got a Chili Pepper story for you.
Go.
Not as good as that. I'm coming back from Chicago. It's when Dave Navarro was in the band for one album. I'm just randomly coming back to L.A., and they obviously had a show, and we had a layover, or I had a layover in St. Louis. So I think I changed planes, and they were getting on the plane in St. Louis. And they were I think I was the first. There's somebody we know, and they were first class, and I think I was
hanging out by the bathroom. Go ahead.
I think we're
first class.
I wasn't. They were first class, but I was in the first row of coach. Okay, so I was at the front of the line behind first class. So the Chili Pepper, I see them there. They go in. I start walking in. 3 guys in black suits and sunglasses throw me against the wall. They're DEA, and I'm completely clean, you know. So, but I bet you that paranoia just freaks you the hell out, right? And I'm like, my God, and then they were looking for somebody. Whether it had anything to do with the Chili Peppers, I do not know.
Yeah,
but they finally you could hear them on the radio, and they check my ID and all this shit, and then they're it's the wrong guy. This is the wrong guy. It's the wrong guy. And I finally
we're looking for another long-haired.
My heart is pounding, and anyway, go through the flight, get to LA. We're cruising down to the and I had a couple of stoner buddies there to pick me up. It must have been before 9/11 because they were allowed into the airport. So, but I'm literally walking down the tunnel with the Chili Peppers, and my friends are just like, I can't do the face on that radio here, but they're like, did Garrick join the Chili Peppers?
Yeah, when they walk by, all right, see you guys later.
but I'm standing there. We're at the carousel waiting for our luggage, and Kiedis is standing there next to me, and I think he's a the drummer Chad. He's from Grand Rapids, I think, Michigan, or one of those guys. I may have that wrong.
Will Ferrell Jr.
Yeah, Will Ferrell. Yeah, behind the drums.
Chad looks just like Will Ferrell.
But Kiedis is there. I tell him the story I just told you. He looks at me, bro. "You took one for the team." It was just, and he got a little white when I
That's
said
when
it.
they were
It
rolling
was
hard.
funny. Yeah. I don't know where they were in their adventures.
Off topic just a little bit, but talking about pre 9/11. This was, I want to say, 88, 89. Buddy of mine was getting married, and it was a whirlwind. He met this girl. We were fairly certain she was a professional, to say the least. We knew she danced at a couple of clubs, but we're pretty sure she was also advertising her wares in the back of the local, what would be like the Metro in Phoenix kind of thing. And we were trying to don't do it, dude. Don't do it. She's bad news, man. Nope. He fell head over heels in love. When we would go out, she'd be hitting on us. You know, he'd go to the bathroom. She'd kind of hit on us. We're like, this ain't right, dude. This ain't right. So we threw him a bachelor party. And this is like maybe 6 months they were engaged. They knew each other and then got
There's
engaged.
no denying true love, man.
So he was getting married on a Saturday afternoon. This shows you how lax it used to be. And it was Oakland Airport. I remember exactly. We all went out to San Francisco. And then we closed the bars there. Frank's 21 Club right there on the corner of Turk and Taylor. We closed the bar at 2, left the bar at about 3:30.
Okay.
And he's got to be at his ceremony. It was going to be at Weeks Park
my.
at like noon the next day. So what we did, we guys got him hammered. He's barely walking. And we drove across the bridge to go home. And I don't remember whose idea it was, but somebody had the idea. Oakland Airport. It's right at the other end of the bridge. We buy him a ticket to Reno. This is in Oakland. Buy him a ticket to Reno for a flight that was leaving in about 20 minutes. We walked him onto the plane. I put him in his seat in the plane and walked out. He wakes up at the Reno airport the next day, calls me collect, goes, "Where am I?" He had no idea where he was or how he got there.
Speaking of Jake, the great sound guy, beard's looking good, bro. Good to see you.
So this dude, safe to say, he never entered into that.
Good save, man. I hope you got credit for that assist there.
Well, there was about 5 of us.
Yeah, isn't that so? Where I lived in.
I like to say that we saved him from a very bad eventuality. But he didn't really talk to us for a while. But I think when he did start talking to us after a few months, it was as if nothing happened. So I think he realized we saved his butt.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to address it by thanking us. It was just never spoken of again.
With today's security, he would never could have saved.
He
the guy.
would be married and
Right.
divorced and married and divorced.
God, did you see the thing where 75% of TSA failed?
No.
2 years ago, 95%. They salt the look. They have undercover guys. They have mock bombs
like
or mock
testing
weapons,
them?
mock, a gun or a knife or a mock bomb. 2 years ago, like 95% failed. I just saw this. Yeah, now 75% just failed.
Oh, they're doing good.
They'll take your bottle of water or your nail clipper. But bombs. Yeah. 3 out of 4 of those get through.
Man. You go back to the little clubs, and I forget what year. It was before I ever heard of the guy. I was helping a guy work. I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, and we were doing a job over by Stanford, and we had to spend the night. It was during summer, so I wasn't in school. And he goes, "Hey, there's a club around the corner. It's the first time I ever went to the Keystone Palo Alto. Small little club. Same place I saw the Peppers. I saw Doc in there years later on their Up and Down revival. But he did this. I want to say it was like 80, 81. And this guy he's in his 30s. I'm working for him, crashing on his motel room floor. But he goes, "Hey, we're done working on like a Friday night, staying the night." And he goes, "Hey, let's go. There's a club down the street. I've seen some great people there over the years." He goes, "There's this guy I think it was Delaware." He goes, "Let's go check him out." And it's a bar, 21 and over, and I'm 14, 15. Mm-hmm. We just walk in. Yeah. I'm finally catching up to my age. When I was 15, people thought I was 25. When I was 25, people thought I was 40. When I was 40, people thought I was 50. And now it's kind of like...
that's what they say about real folks like us, Matt. Yeah. Once you're 50, you get the face you deserve. There's some saying.
So I just kind of stroll in with them. I walk up, order a beer.
Yeah.
I'm 14 years old, drinking a beer. Great, loving it. And then the band comes out. and it's this guy I'd never heard of called George Thorogood.
Okay.
And the Delaware Destroyers.
Yeah.
And there was a nice dance floor and then high tops and then chairs up on the back. But the dance floor was there. So they go out and start playing. He gets about halfway through a song, turns around, goes, all right, cut it, stops him. He goes, we ain't playing if you guys don't come out here and start dancing.
Yeah.
So they start again, and nobody comes out and dances.
Oh, man, those guys were so good back then.
They put their instruments down and went backstage. And I'm sitting there going, what's going on? Now people are drinking, and they start hollering, come out and play, come out. They start cheering and stuff. Nobody comes out. And now they're up on the dance floor, and they're on the stage, and they're going at it. Come out. Everybody's cheering. The whole place is rocking. Still nobody on stage. So this guy, this drunk, climbs up on stage, grabs the guitar, and obviously doesn't know how to play. Just starts going, just strumming as hard as he can. And the crowd's going nuts. Now, in my head, this goes on for a couple of minutes. It was probably about 20 seconds.
Right.
But he's just, he's not wearing any shirt. He's all drunk and sweaty, and he's just strumming. And the crowd's going nuts. Hey, Jonathan, watch your step there. There's a floor. There's a floor there.
No, we're doing
the great Jonathan Best.
Jonathan Best, another luminary. So we get to see everybody here.
You hang out by the bathroom, you see everybody. So this guy's just strumming, and the crowd's going nuts. Then the drummer comes out from the band, comes out from backstage, and just starts doing a boom, 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 just a beat. And the guy's still just strumming away, and the club's going crazy. Then another guy comes out, another band member comes in. Now everybody's out there except for Thorogood.
Yeah.
And this drunk is still just wailing. Thorogood comes walking out, and he goes, give me that guitar, you suck. He puts it on, and then they go into a song, the whole place goes. That would never happen anywhere now. And
no,
that was
there's
just,
so
it was
much
just so
security.
good. It's so great to see these folks, man. And then years later, I go, hey, I see him on MTV. Hey, I know, I saw that guy.
If people forget the rest of the music scene going into the 80s, I mean, blues was about as far as away from anybody's taste at all at that time.
Bo Diddley playing a county fair in Oxnard.
But I still love that first Thorogood album. I kind of do the Bo Diddley song, Right on Josephine, sort of like Thorogood does, and I cover another one of George's. But, I mean, that was the real, and then he kind of opened the door, different kind of blues, but Stevie Ray Vaughan came. I mean, people they're known now from the past, but they, I mean, we're talking 80s and Eurythmics, and not that they're
popping right off of disco, off of
into the electronic stuff,
and then when MTV started coming through, it was a lot of dance stuff, and
I mean, there's more roots music now than there was then even. And I got a great, when I lived in Chicago, Stevie Ray and Jeff Beck.
Oh wow!
Toured together, and I had a feeling because Stars would do that. Buddy Guy's got his club on the south side on Michigan Avenue, and sure enough, I took two of my buddies from Michigan, came out and visited me, and we went down to the club, and sure enough, Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray came and played Buddy Guy's club, and it was just I mean, after a wonderful concert, it was just, and that's when Jeff Beck it was just a trio, no bass player. It was Terry Bozzio on drums, so he was just he's from Zappa and from we had speaking of 80s, he had his band with his wife, the Missing Persons, Nobody Walks in L.A., where he kind of played straight, but just in a Tony Hymas on keyboards. And it just went off. It's just unbelievable to hear those guys play like that, man. Jeff Beck, of all those guys, is the one guitar player that never stopped evolving, which I would have think Hendrix would have been that way. As much as I love Jimmy Page and the Claptons, they kind of play the same stuff they always did.
But they hit that familiarity. They hit that memory, that nostalgia.
But
stuff.
Beck just keeps he gets into industrial and electronic stuff, which doesn't turn me on too much. But his playing is always just. Anybody in L.A., I remember a guy from CAA, Creative Artist Agency, is one of the biggest agencies, probably this side of William Morris. A young kid that lived in front of me there when I lived in Hermosa Beach was a young up-and-coming agent with those guys, and I have this massive music collection of 5,000 CDs on the wall, thousands of vinyl albums, and this is the beginning of the iPod, and they're like, why would you have all those when they could be in this? And I go, they can't even fit in there yet. But I would give him school him on. Here's
Yeah.
there's the Yardbirds. That's where those guys. Anyhow, and he was a typical LA. He's like, well, any show. I'll get you in. And I asked him, is Jeff Beck on your roster? Oh yeah. He didn't know who he was, but he was playing the House of Blues in LA on Sunset, which is no longer there.
Yeah.
And just a good small club. Well, big club for around here, but a small club in a big city. Great room to see a show. And he's, oh, sure, I'll get you on. And then, of course, the day before the show, he calls me, oh, Garrick, I don't know how to tell you. My boss came to me, and he goes, who's this Garrick guy? Because I used to have a guy at Universal that would get me in backstage when he'd play the Universal Amphitheater. Every luminary in town, every rock star, anybody that knows music wants to go to a Jeff Beck show.
Yeah.
If you're in the know. This kid didn't know who he was, and he goes, God, I don't know how to tell you this. My boss was really upset because you're taking the place of some star.
Yeah.
So I didn't get into the show, but it's like that's when you're in the know. That's Jeff Beck is certainly royalty.
Sweet, man, sweet.
One last Jeff Beck.
No,
he toured with.
I'm just glancing down because I don't want to lose battery.
Understood. Jeff Beck, like with Stevie Ray Vaughan, he toured with Santana.
Yeah.
Same kind of. They would just like with Beck. I think they. With Stevie, they took turns who opened the show. But of course, this being L.A., Jeff opened for Santana. Now, Santana has a large band. I don't know how many members, but at least 8 or 9, if not more. On
a slow day.
2 or 3 percussionists in addition to the guy playing traps. And Jeff Beck just had a 4-piece. Same band, except they added a bass player. And the whole place is full of Mexicans. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of Mexicans in L.A. And
where else can you get oranges on the side of the freeway?
And the show was at the Hollywood Bowl, so where you can have a picnic and everything. And so there was just massive families of Mexicans there to see their son, Carlos Santana. And I'm sitting in between a bunch of Mexican families, and I can speak a little Spanish, so we're getting along and stuff. But they don't know who the hell Jeff Beck is.
Yeah.
And then they got Terry Bozzio on drums. And then, like, about halfway through the show, the guy next to me goes, not too bad for a white boy.
That was sweet.
And if anybody wants to learn about Jeff Beck, his first album as a solo guy after he left the Yardbirds, Jeff Beck Truth, is basically, it came out maybe 6 months or less than Led Zeppelin's first album. And the lead singer is Rod Stewart. The bass player is Ronnie Wood, who went on to be with the Stones, Faces, and then the Stones. They even do the same kind of version of "You Shook Me," which was it's the prototype. Poor Jeff Beck, he just got one-upped by he could just never get a band together. And there's the one song Beck's Bolero where Jimmy Page is on it and John Paul Jones is on it. Anyway, I'll get off Jeff Beck. I just love giving these guys their due.
You have educated me like you always do. Let's run through it again. Where can folks find out about you? When you hope the record will be out? Website, Facebook, whatever.
GarrickRawlings.com. I don't think there's too many more of me. On my music page, you'll hear a couple of demos and a couple of older ones. On the video page, there's some video stuff that I've done. And keep checking in. I'll put a link. There's an old link to the show we did with Matt a while back and Les. And I'll put the new one on there, and now as soon as I get information and the new stuff out, I'll put it out there.
Some music off there to use as our bumpers pre and post show.
Feel free.
Thanks, Garrick, for sitting down and talking with me. I'm losing my stupid voice again.
It's all right, brother. Thanks for having me, man. It's fun.
I can't imagine why he would be losing his voice.
I can't have a show without Les jumping on mic.
We almost got it in, Matt. We almost got it in.
He invited me.
I know. Well, hey,
but we didn't think you'd make it.
Once you get that hard copy CD, hit me up.
I sure will. I sure will. I can't wait to share it with you.
I'm imagining you're going to be having a CD release, something up here where folks can get them.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to share it with you and everybody else.
Well, let's do it. Thanks again. Thanks for
Matt.
the folks at the Raven. Again, we got Drew Hall, Anton Teschner, Milan Hawk, Gigi Ganaway playing right now. I'm going to go grab some pictures before we get out of here. But follow all those guys on Facebook. Follow Leslie Earl Lyman, the soldier for the scene, not a serial killer.
Yeah, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Less is always more.
All right, Garrett. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
In seconds flat, but you can't go back. Feels like a crime when you miss the sign. Lost in time, lost in time.